We'll do a review in Lekutei Sichos in Chelek Tezvav, the 15th volume, and this is the fourth Sicha for the Parshas Lech Lecha. In this Sicha, the Rebbe will basically explain the Gemara that talks about the value of the pasuk in Iyov that a person was created to work, and the Gemara goes through there. What is our effort? Not work, but amal, adam la amal yiboled. The person was created for effort, and the Gemara goes through their different effort of work, effort of speech, of davening, and effort of Torah. And the Rebbe goes through all the different values. It starts off with a medrash that Avram Avinu chose the land of Canaan. He saw the people who were working there. He says, "Oh, this is the people I like." What is so special about effort? Why did Hashem create us to have to work hard? And Rabbi explains basically that Hashem wants us to be like Him, to do things, to accomplish, not to get things for free, but that's the way we're doimeh lebeiram. We are similar to our Creator in that we accomplish and we do, and that is through work. And Rabbi is going to explain, but we need a combination of Torah and tefillah and literal work. And the Rabbi is going to also explain this b'pnimis inyanim as the Sikha develops. So let's start inside. Aleph. In the Shaykhus to the Rabtocha von Eberstein to Avram, it relates to the promise from Hashem to Avram. Lizaracha eteines oretz hazois. It says in the pasuk that Hashem says to your seed, I will give this land, and that's talking about the land of Canaan, which is going to be eventually Eretz Yisrael. Zokter in Medrash, so it says in the Medrash, B'sho shehoyu Avram mahalach ba'aram naharayim. When Avram was strolling, walking in Aram Naharayim, which is the land of Canaan, actually, that was not Eretz Yisrael. So, while he was in Aram Naharayim, he says they were eating and drinking and making Mary happy. They weren't serious over there. Amar, he says, I hope I don't have a portion in this land. But then the Kivon Shehigia the Sulam Shel Tzur, once he came to the Sulam of Tzur, that's Eretz Yisrael. He saw that they were preoccupied in plowing, in Idur, and digging and fixing, working the fields. Omar, then he said, I wish this would be my lot, my portion will be in this land. So Hashem said to him, to your seed I'll give this land. You'll get the Salamo Shel Tzur, you'll get Eretz Yisrael. That means that Avram Avinu valued the fact that they were working over there, as opposed to Aram Naharayim, where they're eating and drinking and not being serious. So that was something that he wanted. So this is not only expresses an appreciation from Avraham Avinu at the time, but this is also an expression of appreciation that he wants this for a part for his children for later on. So how does the fact that at that point they were sitting and working hard and he appreciated that, Avraham, how does that transfer and tell us about what the future? Since the Medrash ties Hashem's promise, to your children I will give this land. Midem was der Rotzim von Avraham Avinu. with Avraham Avinu's wishes. Halava yehei chelki beretz hazois. That I wish my portion in this land. And the reason why he wanted it so badly is given to leave that his askus b'melach from the Yeshua was because of the occupation and work of the inhabitants of the land. Is davon verstandig, so we understand. As the Meile Fuzeid is askus b'melacha, that this advantage that they occupy themselves in work is given this siba. That was the reason, not nor to Avram's rotzen to the land, not only that he wanted the land, but also he said, not only that he wanted, but he wanted to give it, that this should be Lezaracho, the Zarish Avram Avinu, that's why he would be very happy for this land to be given to his seed. So the question we have over here, those was Avram Avinu had gesagt, Halvaye Chelki, Boretz Hazois. Why did Avram Avinu say, I wish I've had a part in this land? He wants to be a part of this land, means that he wants to be together with the other people. How does the Oichdem Pirush? It also means, as a Hoben dort a Chelik, he wanted to have a part there amongst the other people that live there. I want a part in this land. I want to be part of that. They're occupied in work. So the reason why Avram personally would rather live in a place like Solomon Shultzur, where they're working, because he wanted a place in where the people are working. We understand that. Avram had gewollt wohnen zwischen Menschen, was fühlen sich bei einer Hagaruja. He wanted to live amongst the people that conduct themselves in a proper conduct. He didn't want to live between people who are just eating and drinking and making merry and just aren't serious. He didn't live to vision amongst those. So we understand for Avram himself where he would prefer to live. But here we're saying that because they were such a people, he wanted for his children to get inherited land. But the promise that Hashem promised, I'm going to give this land to your seed. What does that mean? Over there, it means that those people aren't going to be there, the working people over there, that he wants to be amongst. Hashem is going to give him, those working people will no longer be there. It'll be only the children of Abram. They're going to inherit this land. He's going to totally give it over to Yidden themselves by inheriting, and they're conquering the land of Eretz Yisrael. So what has it got to do, the fact that in the time of Avram, there were working people there, but that working class of people are not going to be there when the children inherit it, because they're going to inherit and take it away and conquer the land. So why should this promise that your children will get it be connected to the good conduct of the inhabitants of the land? And we say to Mizu, and a long time ago, this is not only their good conduct, but a conduct that was many years before they actually conquered the land for the Yid. Then Hagabim Avram, this was a conduct in the days of Avram. So how do we tie in that conduct of his Askus Ba'aretz to the promise of Yidden inheriting that land? So their working people over there that were there aren't going to be there in the time when the Yidden inherit the land. So why would that make a difference to Avram that this should be Lezalach on Asati Yisod? Now, we find sometimes in the Chumash, in the Torah, we find that there is a certain land that produces a certain kind of conduct. It's like an inheritance in the space, that spatial area. Maybe the reason people there were working people, that has to do with that area where they lived. But the Rebbe says on that account, the people that lived there, maybe they were working, but they were pretty low level. So if it has to do with the natural, that would be not a good scene. Yes, from the perspectives of the work, but there was the other promiscuous. It was considered to be a low level on the spiritual, on the moral. Was a low place. So if that has to do with the environment, so that means that place would be a place. We're not, if the inhabitants, if we're going to go by their behavior. Based, which seems that we could have answered, as dan hoge von the Yeshua Oretz weiß of der Tchuna Sugula von der Eretz Hazois Gufa. That maybe this conduct of those who inhabited, the fact that they displayed that working ethics, that shows that Tchuna Sugula from the Eretz Hazois Gufa, that shows the characteristic and the uniqueness of this land itself. It's not just the people there, but it's the land, where they're living. It's the land of Canaan. The Chazal Zog, as we find, the sages tell us, Yesh Eretz Shemagadelas v'chulu, there is lands that raise. So there are certain characteristic traits that comes from the space where you are. So maybe this characteristic trait of work is something which Avram liked, is something associated with the actual place. But with this, we need to understand this. Chazal zogn as masayim shel Kenani mikol koli mikol amim, that the actions of the Canaanite are worse than all the nations. Voice to be fixed in the Horish and the place where the Yidden actually rested is Mikoil is even worse than everything else. Canaan are the worst from all the nations, and the place that the Yidden got within Canaan and Israel, that is even worse than everything else. Since in generally speaking, the actions of the Canaanim were more ruined, were worse than all the nations, also then the people in the land of Aram Naraim, Canaan was worse. So Aram Naraim, he refused, because he says that they are eating and drinking. But Canaan, which he liked over there, that he wanted, that was a more ruined place. So how can we say? Also the einzige Meile von his Askus b'Melocha from the Yeshua is that this one advantage of the occupation and work from the people inhabiting the land, that they are working, this one idea that they're working the land and similar, the einzige Tchuna Toivin Eretz Gufa, that would be the land creates, as we suggested, working people that work. So how could this one work people that should override all other lackings that they have? So biz asulib them is davke zi an eretz versus referin. That to the extent that only because of this special unique quality that the people and the land produce people that work, that one advantage should override, and that should become the land versus Roy for Eden, which is worthy for you. So the Rebbe goes now on to explain a Gemara in Sanhedrin about that explains the pasuk that a person was created For amol. What amol? Amol means for hard work. What are we talking about? Amol. What kind of amol are we talking about over here? So the chashiva sumayla from Lecha about the importance and advantage of work. Zog Chazal, our sages of blessed memory tell us. Amar Rabbi Lozer says Rabbi Lozer kol Adam la'amol nivra. Every person is created for effort. Shanemar, as the pasuk says in Iyov, ki Adam la'amol yavolid in Iyov Perek Hey pasuk Zayin. A person was created for effort. Now he was born. But the Gemara says Rabbi Lozer im la'amol peh nivra. We don't know whether it is referring to an effort of the mouth, or that's what he's created for, or it is an effort of work that he was created for. So then we have a pasuk in Mishlei Tazayin pasuk Chavav. The pasuk says, "Ki okaf olav pihu," that he muzzled on him his mouth, that the mouth is the person have a omer level penivra. So that pasuk tells us that a person was born for the effort with his mouth. Within the mouth itself, what does it mean? Just talk or Torah. So what kind of an effort with the mouth, with the pep? Is it an effort of Torah, or is it an amal of sicha? We'll see. Sicha means tefillah. When the pasuk says that this sefer Torah shall not cease, be removed from your mouth, so then I say that this is the effort of Torah. That's why the person was created. Is it move on? So it's not understood. This whole piece of Gemara. We can zayin. How could there even be a thought? The Gemara, okay, the Gemara changes later. The amal means amal Torah, but in the beginning there's a thought as bris adam is given them amal malacha, that a person's work created is so that he put effort in work. What kind of a advantage, what kind of a greatness is there in effort in work? Was is recht zu sagen, so that it justifies to say as to leave them is der ganze Tachlis sein beschaffen werden, that because of that malacha, that's the entire goal, purpose of him being created. So what is it about the malacha? Al derech ze is nit moving the zweiter gesalkedaisach. In a similar way, we don't understand the second thought that we thought as that Adam is beschaffen geworden zu lieb amal sicha, that he was created because of the effort in talk. Befrat, here before I mentioned before sicha means tefillah, but this is going to be in the resolution. But right now, most sicha means effort of talk. Ubefrat levi the Rambam is meidig, especially as the Rambam prolongs. As reiv deburim zayin gor deburim built it to him, that the most of the speech are undesirable speech. How could we think that for this sicha the person was created? And Rabbi says that even something in Torah which is a thought, it doesn't mean that it's negated altogether. We'll still make a bracha for learning that part of Torah. How could this be something really part of Torah that a person is created for work and for talk? Not gresed is the Tmiya Loita Yidua. This surprise is even greater based on what is known as Oicha Kasal Kadaitach in Torah is Torah, that even a thought in Torah is also considered Torah. From them, that's also evident from the fact, from them din, the halach is as when einer lernt takasha da Kasal Kadaitach in Torah. When one is studying a question or a thought in Torah, on them tirutzu maskona, without the answer and the conclusion. You just learn in Torah a part which has a question or a thought or an initial thought. Is a Lech mechuyev to sagen Berachas HaTorah? He's still mechuyev to say the blessing of the Torah. So that means to say that there is validity to the thought in Torah. You say the mezu and more, not just he makes a bracha. In the bracha, Zokter and Ruftes on Torah say, gave us his Torah, the Eibishter's Torah, and it calls the Torah Semes. Thus he says and the Kasha calls that in the question and the initial thought is do apparatus varamitis. There's the details and a true idea, true logic. That's why it's Torah say, and that's why it will be Torah Semes. Nor does you need to pass. So how come? But it's not fitting in this case or similar. That's why we don't use it's only Chazal. So when we try to understand in our case, similar we understand in our topic over here. The Teuchen Amaila was do in Amal Melocha und Amal Sicha. The content of the advantage that we talk about, effort of work, an effort of talk, was to leave them is dark al kadaito. And for that reason, there is a thought, and this is the tachlis from Bris Autumn, that this would be the goal of creation of man. This is not challenged totally, even after the Gemara's conclusion. As Lamal Torah Nivra, the person was created for the effort in Torah. That doesn't mean that they're totally rejected. She's nor as Amu Malacha V'Sicha. It's only we're saying that the effort of work and talk, they are not sufficient to meet the entire goal of creation of the person. But we are not rejecting them to be true independently if it's not, when we're not talking about the ultimate, complete, full goal. In other words, they're Seder Hanyoni from the Shachta, the Tari and Gemara. So what we're saying here, that this order of the way this is presented in the give and take of the Gemara, as the Gemara built up its conclusion. The first thought that he was created to effort for work. And the second thought was as that he was created to effort in speech. On the maskon, and then we have the conclusion as la'amol Torah nivra, that he is created. Ultimately, the conclusion is that he was created for amol Torah. Lo yomush sefer Torah zemipicha, as the pasuk says, Torah should not turn away from your mouth. Is gehalten bleibt euch lefi maskona. So that is all three parts are correct, and they also remain even after the conclusion. Which means, in order for the person to reach the goal of his creation, he must first have the advantage of working hard and sicha hard, effort in work and effort in sicha. And then when he takes these two efforts, the Amal Malacha and the Amal Sicha, and he associates with Torah, connects it to Torah, that's when he reaches the wholesomeness and the goal of his creation. In order to understand all this, the Rebbe explains in Oizdalet, begins to explain why is it necessary bichlal to have Amal. And why couldn't the Eibishter create the people that they shouldn't have to do almost, shouldn't have to work so hard? But man das verstehen, so we'll understand this. Behagdim ha'asbara im vos bastei de chshivas von Amal bichlal. By first introducing what does the importance of work, effort at all. Bis as der mit is verbunden, to the extent it's so important that work is so, effort is so important that's connected to their klolos the ketachlis from Briyas Odom, the general purpose of creating of man. Adam la'amal yuvalid. A person was created to effort. Lecha, seemingly, Bibal that Eibishter is atzamat toiv. Since the Hashem is the essence of good, the teva toiv lahitiv. And the nature of the good is to do good. Why did he set up the creation in such a way as a mental that the person should need to come on to effort and hardship and hard work? Now, and you can't say the reason for it is that naturally a person is delighted. Mainly, you can enjoy if you get something when you put in the effort. That's when there's a main joy. So maybe that's why the Eibishter made everything with effort, so that you can have the enjoyment. But that alone is the question. Why did Hashem make it up such a way that I should enjoy it only when I put in effort? Where do we find this idea that a person enjoys when he puts in effort? Al derech ma'amar hazal. Similar to the saying of our sages of blessed memory, that a person would rather have one of his own that he worked hard rather than what was given to him 9 times as much. So, because a person enjoys what's his. So, but we can't say that that's why the Eibishter wants us to have effort, because that in itself is created that nature by Hashem. This nature, natural thing that you enjoy when you put in effort is not something which is on its own necessarily. Nor that Eibishter, when he mentioned the Eibishter, Hashem made this nature in people. So the question goes back to its place. Yes, the person has enjoyed when he puts in effort. But why did the Eibishter make a person only enjoy when a person effort? Why did Hashem create a person with a nature to have pleasure and delight specifically from things that comes through effort and hard work and hardship? In Yonei Tsar, things that are stressful, painful. Why wouldn't the Eibishter make that we get a free gift? You should enjoy that as well. So what's the explanation? The Eibishter wants to give us the ultimate good, that you can become a partner in Hashem in creation. So then you become, if you were given everything, then you're not a partner, you're not in creating, not like Hashem. We want the effort. To explain the beer in them. Amitis v'tachlis hatoiv is the true and ultimate good is the mental der gerechen that the person should reach. Nicht nor the hechste shleimus was is da in geder hanivroim, not only the highest wholesomeness which is within the boundaries of created being, nor oicha madrege was in ir werter, but also to reach a level in which he becomes kaviyachol, so to speak, he becomes similar to his creator, not only the highest level in created being, but also to be similar to the creator Hashem, to the creator. Derech Loshen Chazal, similar to the language of our sages of blessed memory, shutov LaKodesh Baruch Hu Ma'aseh Bereshis, coming to HaKodesh Baruch Hu, a partner in Ma'aseh Bereshis. In order for a person to be able to become a partner for Hashem Ma'aseh Bereshis, the river of the Eibishter eingestellt dem Teisei der Abriya. That's why Hashem set up the order of creation. As der Mensch soll seine Baderfinish nicht bekommen am Minucha. That a person should not get his needs already, nor davke durch Amol v'Yigia, but specifically by working, by hardship and effort. Bichdei, in order, as durch dem soll sich aufheben, when you put in effort and hardship, you raise yourself need nor to the shleimus from a makabel, not only to the wholesomeness from a recipient as properly, nor shleimus the shleimus from nivra, which would be the wholesomeness of a created being, nor oich to the madrege from a mashpia, but you also raise yourself to the level, the step of being a mashpia, to give, to influence, umahave, and creator. Similar to his creator. Them, was der Mensch Horevet und Shab b'koyach atzmai. Through this, that the person puts in effort and creates with his own power. That's why the Eibishter's goodness, giving him the possibility and the opportunity to become a creator of doing the, and you are doing the work, you are putting the effort in, not just given, you're not just the recipient, you're actually doing it, you're working for it, that makes you like Daimel. Und das Guf is der Tam of the Tavanal. That's the reason for this nature. As a Mensch hat nicht kein Tainuk von Sachen, was bekommt bechinam. That a person does not have the light from items that he gets free. Nor Adrabe. If you get something for free, schämt sich damit. You are embarrassed with accepting free, hands out. That's called in the Zohar shameful bread. While in the Odom is mutba, because in the person it is nature, it's been set in his psyche, as ein Tafkid und Shloimes is to sein nit nor a mekabel, that his ultimate purpose and job and wholesomeness is not to be a recipient, not just to be a recipient, but also a person that gives influence, similar to your creator. Want to do, you want to give. That's why they actually gave you that nature. So hey, their meat is move on. So with this we understand. Gemara is why the first initial thought in the Gemara is as the Odom is Bashafen geworden Amal Melacha, that the person was created for the effort of work. Bald as the Meile von Amal is thus, since the advantage, the greatness of effort is that was durch dem werder Odom der Heim, that through the effort the person is raised to the darge of mashpia, to the level of being an influence giver, a boire, which is creator. Ashutav laKodesh Baruch Hu b'maaseh bereish, is a partner to Hashem in the acts of creation. Is mistaber, so it's logical as der omol dav zayin be'iker, that this effort needs to be mainly nit in yonim not in matters which are related to him and his level, but in such things, the effort in which he can influence the acts of creation, which is doimem semeach chayv and welt, the inanimate, the growing and the living of the world. Davke der mit specifically by doing with the world, you become a partner in the act of creation, which was creating the world. Und der Vater is der erster Kosalt Gedait of the Gemara. That's why the initial thought of the Gemara is as Odom la'amal yivoled, that the person was created for effort, meant nit amal sicha or amal Torah. Does not mean amal sicha and Amal Torah, which Bazadian is nit in Weltsachen. Their aspect is not worldly matters. The Gemara doesn't think that it means something. The Gemara thinks literally it needs to be something in work, not as meint Amal Malacha. It means the effort in work. This haste for them was that Odom is Omol b'Malachtoi, through the fact that a person puts in effort in his work, in an oifen harotzi, in a desirable way, al pi Torah, according to Torah. But this is the pirush von amal malacha gulkamon siv zayin. When we say work of malacha, the Rebbe will bring down from the Friedrich Rebbe in siv zayin, that it means you're working and you are doing it according to the Torah, trusting in the Eibishter that he will make it successful. What you're planting, as the Rebbe will bring it down, is poyel mashpia in the bria. So the person impacts and gives to the creation as he was the boy that it should be properly. And therefore he becomes through this a partner in the act of creation. That is to connect with the physical, with the Daimon Tzumeach Chai from the world that Hashem created, and you participate by adding into that the effort in that area in the Amal Malacha. That's the initial thought. And yet, the Gemara says, aber von dem allein, as the Ina Amal is Bichdei, der Odom Zaver Nashutu LaKodesh Baruch Hu Ma'is Bereishis. But that, from that alone, just at the effort to make the person a partner to Hashem Ma'is Bereishis, kemem verstehen, so we can understand, since you're becoming a partner to Hashem, as erkennish sukum and zu tachlis v'shleimus hashutfus, that you cannot actually reach the ultimate and wholesomeness of the partnership just by doing the effort and work. He must also have the effort of sicha there too. Why? But in the shutvis in Maise Bereshis is doch when is doimel lebeire. How does he become a partner in Maise Bereshis? Because he becomes similar to his creator. Und wie bald as der Eibishter is nicht nur mashpia in the Bria. And since Hashem is not only gives a flow into the Bria, and that is mechadish the Bria, he renews the creation. He's moving as euch die Schutfes von Odom b'maise Bereshis. So when the person becomes a Shutf Maise Bereshis, his ashlemis they can note it down. It's only then when they're poyul tachidish in the bria, when he accomplishes a novelty in the creation. Eibishter is mechadish, and he has to accomplish a novelty. Und therefore, and for that reason, is amal malocha alein it maspik. The just work effort is not sufficient. Hagam as durch malocha boifen arotz. Although that when you do work in a desired way, poil teran ilui, in the bria, he accomplished an elevation in the bria. As the Rebbe said before, from the mentioned to the Friedrich Rebbe that you do the work in a proper way, you become a partner. However, you need a chiddush. Bald as in them koyach. That's not sufficient. Bald is in them koyach ha'ilu from Amal Malacha. Because since in the power of doing from work, effort and work, it does not express the advantage of the person relative to the other categories of creation. Because the power for doing exists also by animals. So how would the human being express his special greatness by just doing? Doing is something which is common also by Balachayim, by animals. The Riber tut der Eufen Welt nor azailu. So because of that, you only accomplish in the world such an elevation versus berach to the Bria from Balachayim, which is relative and related to the Bria, to creation, Balachayim, to that level of creation. Aber nicht an Ilui Shaleberka, but not an advantage which is in unrelated, unimaginably, on a much higher level. Achidush in the Bria. There's no novelty in the Bria. B'shas aber der Amal Malachi is verbunden mit Amal Sicha. But when you tie this effort of work together with the effort of Sicha, as the Malacha und Hashpah in Welt, that Sicha is Medaber, the person, so that the Malacha and the influence in the world is an Oifen, is in a way was in the Meile from Min HaMedaber. It's in such a way in which it expresses the advantage of the speaking person. Peh v'sicha, that is the mouth and the talking. That's the human, the medaber. Then there is a novelty accomplished in the creation, a toisvis ilui, an additional advantage. Was is hecher from the bria mitzad atzma, which is higher than creation on its own. Before the person's, before the category of a human being, the speaker, the one who speaks, that his existence is expressed now through infusing the action, the malacha, with dibur. But this is still not yet the true, correct partnership. He does not have a part in his creation in a general way. And with the power of speech, he doesn't have a part. But when you tie this to Torah, which is Hashem's Torah, him and his wisdom is one, and you work hard in Torah. So when you connect your effort with Torah, when you work hard in Torah, the Torah turns into the Torah of the person. From the person who's putting effort in Torah. So then he accomplished, was mechadish, there's a chiddush, and he united, he united the creator and the creation, so to speak. That's when he becomes similar to his creator. A partner to Hashem in the act of creation. So basically, the Amal Malacha is the first thought, because you got to get involved with creation. But in order to reach, that's not enough. In order to reach the advantage of the human being, a chiddush, also the human being, you need the sicha, the min medaber. And then, but ultimately, to really get the chiddush of the person's partnership, he needs to connect with Torah, because it's the Torah of Hashem. And when you connect with Torah of Hashem, then you come up with the real chiddush of connecting Hashem, the Boida, with the world. And now the Rebbe goes over to explain this Pnimis Inyonim with the statement how the Frierdiker Rebbe explained these three levels, or the thoughts of the Gemara, and the conclusion of Amal Malacha and Amal Sicha and Amal Torah. Zayin, the Biva Pnimis Inyonim, the explanation in the inner matter of things. In the inyan from Amal Malacha and Amal Sicha, in the idea, this idea of work effort and Sicha effort is Kveit Kedushas Meduchom Admur Mavayir. So my father-in-law, the Rebbe, explains. As Amal Malacha meant, what does it mean, work in Malacha? Sheyase Malachte Be'emuna. That he should do his work with belief, which means sheyamin b'Hashem, that he should believe in Hashem. Shehu hazonu mefarnes, that he is the one that feeds and sustains. Behu yizbarich yigmer bade lebrocha, and he, blessed, will conclude for him for a blessing. So it means work with belief in Hashem, that Hashem will do it all for a blessing. That is Amal Torah. When Amal Sicha, the reading from Amal Sicha is his Askus B'Tfilah. That's the occupation in davening. K'maymer Azal, as the sages say, is Ein Sicha L'Tfilah, V'yitzi Yitzchok L'Suach, Basode L'Suach, Ein Sicha L'Tfilah, that Sicha means davening. The Hezber is that he is soid from the Ma'ibir mountain beer. The explanation of the previous Rebbe over here is the basis of the above mentioned explanation that the Rebbe explained the Inyanim. As Amal Malacha is an Inyan, was his Be'erech zu der Bria. Amal Malacha work, that is a aspect which is relative and related to creation. Un Amal Sicha is hecher from the Bria, is beyond creation. Midera munashu azon mufanes alain, just believing that Hashem feeds and sustains. That does not accomplish an elevation to a level in godliness, which is higher than more. Because the fact itself was a dark onkumen, so Asiya is askis in darke ateva, that he needs to come on to doing an occupation in the ways of nature. Nimmt sich von the medidas vagbolis von Welt, that comes from the limitations, the measured and limitation of the world, and that's why need to work. You need to make a keli. You have to work in the confines and in the gedorim, the definition of the world, and therefore, Hagam zayin amal melochi is durchgenommen mit emunah b'Hashem, even though the effort of work is penetrated, it's totally taken from, filled with emunah b'Hashem, shehu, that Hashem is Hazon Mafanis, that He is the one that feeds and sustains. And it's not the ways of nature on their own, but it's like, but it's Hashem that sustains from deswegen. But still, the Gerechter durch dem bloisa madregen elikus, he only reaches to that step in godliness was his melubish and Welt, which is dressed in the world. Oh, veravedas hatfila. When we talk about the work of davening, amal sicha, is in yono sula mutzav arza v'reishe magi hashemayim. The idea of davening, while the ladder stands on the ground, but it reaches to the sky. The haloeh from odom milamato lemailo, the elevation of the person from below to above, bis magia shemayim, so that he goes up to the sky, which is hecher from the bria, higher from creation. The riber, and therefore, when zusammen mit amal melocha, together with the effort in work, is oich do amal sicha, there's also effort in davening. Tuter men oich oif in the bria toisus ilui, so then you accomplish also in the creation an additional advantage. Hecher vizi is mitzad atzma, in a way that is higher than she is by herself. But this is the taich, this is the translation from Sulam Mutzav Arza, the Roishay Magia Hashemayim, the ladder that is standing on the ground and the top reaches to the sky. As durch tefillah, that when you daven, is the halaw that when you daven, you elevate not just the person who's davening is elevated. You take the arza, the earthly matters, and you bring them up bis to Shamayim. So your davening actually brings up with you the entire world to the higher level, to the Bechina from Welt, to the level which is higher than the world. So that's why we need, in addition to the Amal Melocha, which only brings you to Elokus, which is associated with the world, and if you want to reach to Hashemayim, you have to also have the Amal Sicha. And this yet is also not enough. Ches, Hagam as Amal Sicha, Avodas Hatfilah, which is the service of davening, which is the Amal Sicha, is Poyel and Welt and Ilui. It impacts the world and elevation, but is Hecher from der Bria Mitzad Atzma, which is higher than the creation on its own. From deswegen kann sie durch dem noch als nicht öftonen emsliche. Still, yet it cannot, through that alone, accomplish a true novelty in the Bria, in the creation. And emsliche cannot do that yet. But if you bow, does the Allah durch tefillah, because since the elevation of davening is in an oifen, is in a way as the Adam hebt sich auf b'koyach atzmei. It's in a way that the person raises himself with his own koyach. The davening is the person's investment is in koyach to raise himself. The person is measured and limited. Is euch sein Alib and Medina Magbola. So the elevation is also measured and limited. When the Rebbe wird durch dem aufgetan in Welt, and therefore, what does accomplish in the world? Euch nor azai ilui. Also, such an elevation, was is noch als be'erech habriya. It is still related to creation. It's not a change and an actual novelty. Still, there is a connection to Bria. When is there a novelty if there is an elevation which is totally not comparable at all to the Madrega before? The far is the Maskonas Gemara. That's why the conclusion of the Gemara is as la'amal Torah nivra, that Torah, because Torah also the Torah as it descended below, is it Torah it's Hashem's Torah without a limit. The Bald has Torah is in ganzen Hecher from the Bria, and since Torah is totally higher than creation, the Riber Hotzi dem Koyach to poil sein Ashinui in the Metzias from Welt. That's why Torah has that power, because it's totally higher than the world. It has the ability to impact a change in the Metzias from Welt, in the entity, existence of the world. This is Overn Ametzias Chadosha Mamish, so that the world becomes an actual, true entity, a new entity. So why don't we have just Torah? No, you need first to say that you need first Melacha and Sicha, and then you can come to Torah. Aber kedei mezal kennen durch Amol Torah aufheben the Welt zu adarge, was is in ganzen Hecher und mechutz von der Bria, in order to be able to raise the world to a level which is entirely higher and outside of creation, Ametzias Chadosha, a new existence, Mus frier sein die Shleimus Abir. First, you must have the wholesome, complete sorting out in the Nyone Hoyle Mitzad Atzmam, in the world matters and of their own, before we can bring them higher than the world. In the Riberis, they say that that's why the order is Asumershon Dav Zayin Amal Malocha. First, there needs to be the effort in work, these askes in Yoni Ha'ilam, the occupation of worldly matter, in an oifen arotza Torah, in a desired way according to the Torah. But durch them is a mesaken the Welt. He fixes through that the world is all zayin in atzir from kedusha, that it should be shaped of kedusha, have the shape of kedusha through his amal malocha, with the Torah proper approach, desired way. Aber amal malachalin is not maspik, but that is not sufficient. Just the kavone is because the intention is as oilams only bleiben v'amodei umatzovei, that the world should not remain in its standing and in its situation. Afilu natzir for kedusha. Even if it's a shape of kedusha, it's not sufficient. Nor medarved zu meisiv sein. But you have to add to it the minyan for amal sicha needs to be also amal sicha. Meile sein the Welt zu abechine in elikus, to elevate the world to such a level in godliness, was his hecher from Welt, which is higher than the world. A vifel, to the extent that Adam can the person can reach himself, because davening is his own koyach. That is the steps necessary. But after after the introduction and the preparation of the effort in Melocha, after the Sicha, kommt der Inyan von Amal Torah, then we come to the level of effort in Torah. Was hat in sich dem Koyach? Torah has in itself the power, Zayendik, Mushrish Natzmusis, but being that it's rooted in his blessed essence, so Oifton Achidush in der Bria, to come make up a novelty in the whole creation, now to connect it with much higher, with the infinite, because Torah is from above, rooted in Atzmus. So Oifton Achidush in der Bria, because durch them, That way, when you connect it with Torah, it accomplishes the intent of creation to make for him blessed a dwelling place in below. As the Tachtonim werden Ametzias Chadosha Mamish, that the lower ones become a new entity, an actual new entity, because now they're connected. Torah has been brought down to the world. The bit is moving now with this understand as the Avkid Metzias, that is specifically we need to have the existence and the order, and the Seder von alle drei Sugei, from all three categories of Amal, of effort. Amal Melocha, Amal Sicha, and Amal Torah. Is Masbir Umatim den Inyan that explains and gives it tastes the concept of Odom L'Amal Yul. Now we understand why Odom L'Amal Yul. Why was a person created for effort? Durch alle drei Sugi, through all of these three categories of Amal, tut oiv der Odom achidush imaisa bereishis. The person accomplishes a novelty in the Maisa Bereshis. Unaver durch them, and through this he becomes a shutaf lakodesh baruch hu b'Maisa Bereshis, a partner to Hashem in the act of creation. Doimel lebayri, becomes similar to his creator. And this is the tachlis habriya, this is the ultimate goal of the bria. So that's why the Gemara, it all stays. It stays. Amal, the Kosal Kadaito. These are steps, and they're all part of the same idea. Why does we have to put in effort? Effort is there so that we can become like our Creator. That takes the three steps. Torah eventually makes us up to the Creator because it has mushras, it comes from Maila. But to get to there, we first have to get the world to its highest level of Kedusha through Amal Melocha. And then we have to get this through the Koyach Hatzma, highest elevation to Hashemayma, the Erech HaBriya, and then we get it to totally higher than Briya through Amal Torah. Aderech Vigeret Friya in Avodas Adam Bechlal, similar to what we discussed in the service of the man, earlier about the service of the man in general, as the Tachlis von sein Briya is to Ibrahim that the ultimate goal of his creation is to remake the world through the effort in Torah, was his hecher from the Bria, which is higher in the Bria. But in order to accomplish this, but first you have to have the effort of work and sicha. The same thing is as it applies to Eretz Yisrael, that Eretz from the Eretz of Yidden. By Yisrael, this is Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael is free geworden to the Zionos. Initially, Eretz Yisrael was given to the 7 nations, with their kavono and tachlis, with the intent and the goal, as Eden soll ihr Käufer sein und übermachen, that they should be conquered and redone, remade von Eretz Sagoyim, that it should be not a nation of the Goyim, so then Eretz Yisrael, it should become the land of Eden. And Eretz HaKodesh, a holy land. A land was in Iris made Begilu de Eira Torah. It's a land in which openly shines the light of Torah. Was is Hecher from them, which is higher from them. Und das hat sich angegeben bei Mei Avraham. And this all started in the days of Avraham. But then is given the Haskola, then it was the beginning from Shnei Alofim Torah. The 2,000 years of Torah began with Avraham. When Avraham hischil lahoyir, Avraham began to shine. So balaichtem mit dem Eure Leki, was is Hecher from Welt, to illuminate with a godly light which is higher than world. Und sein his boinenus hat sich angegeben. Where did his reflection, how did he get to this godly light which is higher than world? It started from world. It's changim kimayim chazal. His boinenus, he reflected kidaboy. That was a proper, it was an amal, an effort. Without effort, and you found you don't believe. So since Abraham found, that means that his reflection was with effort. Amal. In the bit of, he looked into the world, and Noch, And after that, he looked in the Shemesh, in the sun, through which the flow comes enveloped in the world. So he looked at the creation, at the nature, and he concluded, he came to the conclusion there is a master, there's an owner for this palace. To the extent that he realized that there is no comparison, no relationship from this master of the world and the palace in the world. As the saying of our sages, that Loi brought down the Torah, Loizehi Ikera Lakus Masha Ha'ilum Mishabim Mimenu. It's not the main thing of godliness that the worlds are created from him, and but the ability to realize that there's much, much higher, much beyond. It's Adein Arech. Yud Kedeyas that Eretz Zol Zaina Keli Tzumoira Torah from Avromen was his belt. So, in order that this land should be a vessel to the light of Torah of Avram, which he shined the world with the Shneila from Torah that begins with Avram, was durch dem wird in Ishapach und wird an Eretz Yisrael Zakodesh, through which it is turned around and it becomes a land of Israel, a holy land. But in the free gedacht sein der Inyan, so first needed to be for Namal Meloch and Namal Sich. Work, effort, and effort of Sich, the Riber. And therefore, Davke, those were the Yeshua Oret Zain given, Asukim, Menichush, Chulu, Beiduchulu, specifically because they were preoccupied with the plowing and the digging, etc. Is dort given that in Namal there was the concept they work was there is given the achone. So that was the preparation. As noch der hakdome from Bakoshes with Tfilas Avram. After that introduction of the request, that's the part of the Tfilah. That's the Sicha Avram. Sicha halvai yichal kiboretz azois. So we had the Malacha. He prayed, and he got the Sicha. So that Eretz gegeben werden zu Avram ulazarei. So this land should be given to Avram and his children, Achraf, that follow him. But they turned it around to Zain and Eretz, to be a land in Welchem, as life the Reira Torah, in which the light of Torah shines, was his hecher from the Bria, which is higher than creation. This is Mesiches Yud Shvat Tov Shin Chavches and Yud Aleph Nisan Tov Shin Lamed Beis.